Well, as part of our conversations today, we turn our focus to Kenya, where recent youth-led protests have captured the continent's attention. Well, in June and July, Kenya saw widespread demonstrations, first triggered by the tragic death of a blogger, Albert Ojwang, in police custody, then fueled by economic hardship, corruption, and heavy-handed policing. These protests, largely driven by Gen Z and organized via platforms like X, TikTok, and Instagram, have rocked 17 out of 49 counties, led to over 70 deaths and 550 injuries, and also prompted global concern over the state's response and human rights. Well, from 2024, the hashtag Reject Finance Bill uprising to the recent hashtag Ruto Must Go and hashtag End Femicide KE campaigns. Kenya's youth are not just protesting, they are asserting their constitutional rights, like freedom of assembly under Article 37 of the Kenyan Constitution, and demanding accountability from their government. As police continue to operate under the Police Public Order Act and National Police Service Act with allegations of excessive force, live rounds, abductions, and attempted legal restrictions on spontaneous protest, questions are arising. Where does the law stand? Are protests fully protected? What role can Kenyan courts and legal communities play in safeguarding civil liberties? Well, to explore these vital questions and the wider implication for African youth-led democracy movements, I'm joined live from Nairobi by Advocate Ndegwa Njiru. He is a leading constitutional litigator and prominent voice in Kenya's legal political sphere. Hello, Advocate. Thank you for joining the show today.
Good afternoon.
I'm asking, under Kenyan law, particularly the Constitution, what rights protect public demonstrations like the ones we've seen in recent weeks?
Thank you so much. Permit me, just before I answer the question, to give you a brief history of where our country came from.
Okay.
Our country came from 1963 when our founding fathers gave unto themselves the 1963 Lancaster Constitution, which was pre or before the fall of the Berlin Wall. The 1963 Constitution was not progressive in terms of appreciating the human rights regimes. So it became a very oppressive instrument that the regime of the day or the regime of the times was using to suppress any political activity, any dissenting voice, or any person who felt that he had a contra view to what the popular position of the government was. So with that history, it became necessary for our country to enact a new constitution that would appreciate the progressive human rights regimes and appreciates the universality of the rights and the sanctity of it and the inherency aspect of it. So the 2010 Constitution gave us that right and those freedoms. Among those rights and freedoms that the Constitution gave us was Article 37, the right to picket, to demonstrate, to protest. This right to protest and to demonstrate and to picket does not just find itself from nowhere. It finds itself from Article 1 of the Constitution, which has conferred all the supremacy and the sovereignty of the country on the people. It is so pronounced by our Constitution that Article 1 creates the sovereign, the people as the sovereign. It provides that power belongs to the people and they shall exercise their sovereignty in accordance to the Constitution. It further says that granted the history that this country has undergone, where institutions are compromised and are unable to achieve their intended purpose or function, the 2010 Constitution created some residual powers, which it directly gave to the Kenyans themselves, to the extent that it provided that this sovereignty of the people is exercised directly or indirectly. Directly by the people and indirectly by the people, the people's representative. And it has created the mechanism through which such kind of power is to be donated or to be delegated to the elected representatives. Suffice to note that Article 37, therefore, comes to operationalize or to create a forum within which Article 1 of the Constitution can directly be exercised by the people of Kenya. So Article 37 has created the residue avenue where the people can exercise their sovereignty in the event the state organs or the organs created by the Constitution have failed to live up to the expectations. For example, one of the things that is keeping people on the streets in our country is the question of accountability of government, the question of transparency of government, the question of how the government of the day is dealing with the appropriation and allocation of the meager national resources, the question of corruption, the question of abuse of office. All those are the issues that if Parliament, which was enacted by the people through the democratically elected representative, if it was functioning as expected, today you would not see anybody on the streets. If Parliament was holding government to account and executing their oversight functions as against the government of the day, today you would not be seeing anyone on the streets. We are, however, on the streets because of the failure of the institutions that have failed to hold government to account. That is the major reason why people are demonstrating on the streets. That's the major reason why people are on the streets, to hold government to account. Pardon me, I just came to the farm. You called me when I was at the farm. I had come to inspect some cows. I'm a farmer and as well as an advocate.
That's totally fine. But let's go back to a legal standpoint now. Are the actions taken by law enforcement, such as the use of live ammunition and arrest, are they justifiable from a legal standpoint?
I would ordinarily not. Allow me just to get to a better place where I can put on my camera. I leave that construction site. Permit me to say and to state that there is no justification why this should be taking place. The reason why the state has taken that approach of use of live ammunitions, the use of live bullets, the shoot to kill orders, is because the state is defranchised. The state is unable to answer to the challenges that young people and Kenyans are posing to it. So as a result of the failure to answer to those plights, the state has decided to use force as against unarmed civilians. As we speak, from the Sabasaba protests, we have over 60 people who are gunned down by state agencies. And their mistake was that they were only in the streets to exercise their sovereignty as dictated or as decreed by the Constitution. So the use of force is the attempt of the state to use terror to control the people of Kenya. The use of the state to use terror to silence the dissident voices. The use of the state operators to use terror to silence those individuals who are calling government to order. The simplest thing of asking government to account to the people of Kenya. So we are dealing with that aspect because our constitution is very clear that there is no one who is allowed whatsoever to direct the police on how to apply force or how to execute their functions. So all these directives, either by the president, whom I call the president, or the minister in charge of internal affairs, they are unlawful, they are illegal orders, they are unconstitutional orders, because our constitution does not contemplate a scenario whereby the Inspector General of Police is under the control of the political class. The IG, the Inspector General, is expected by the Constitution to exercise independence, some degree of independency in the manner in which he manages the police, the National Police Service. But the reason why we are seeing that police officers are responding to the shoot to kill orders is because we are unable to separate the police from the state, from the political operatives. The sooner we separate this, and the sooner the police realizes their independence from political manipulation, the sooner we shall have dealt with the question of the orders of shoot to kill. Thank you.
Okay, so let's look at the Kenyan judicial system. Right? Would you say Kenyan judiciary has been proactive, or has it been cautious when it comes to defending civil liberties during these unrest?
Well, I have to applaud our judiciary. Currently, the only institution that is remaining functioning is the Kenyan judiciary. All other institutions have been taken captive by the regime of the day. They sing to the tune of Mr. William Ruto. They dance the tune of Mr. William Ruto. They do what Mr. William Ruto has told them to do. But we thank God that our 2010 Constitution created a clear and separate independence of our judiciary. So our judiciary is the only remaining last line of defense. The judiciary has been very proactive. They have come up in defense of human rights, the Bill of Rights. They are upholding it on day-to-day basis. For example, today I was at Kahawa Law Court, where over 104 youths have been charged with the offense of terrorism. Some of those youths who came out on the 25th of June to commemorate the Third Liberation Day, and those who came out on the 7th of April, what is commonly known as Sabasaba Day here in Kenya, some of them have been charged with the offense of terrorism. The Kenyan political class and the office of the ODPP, which has failed to resist the influences and the excesses of the government, it has advised government to charge its citizens under the office under the offense of terrorism. Suffice to note that the majority of the individuals charged before that court are aged between 18 and 25 years old. So a country has decided that the bulk of its youths, forming 70% of the population, are now considered as terrorists. That is the situation we are here in Kenya, that the office of the ODPP has failed to live up to the expectations and the decree and the dictates of the Constitution. That is one of the offices that we created with the 2010 Constitution, and it was expected that office would resist any political excesses, political infiltration, and political manipulation. But
hello, Advocate.
The office is leading in ensuring that the office is leading in ensuring that our youths are charged with that heinous offense of terrorism. So the Kenyan judiciary has been upped to the game. It has lived up to the creed and up to the people's to the legitimate expectation of the people.
Well, advocates, as you have rightly mentioned, the bulk of the people who are, being a part of these movements and also at the same time being arrested by government are between 18 and 25, and that is what would popularly be known as Gen Z. They are digitally mobilized, they are leaderless, and they are bold. How would you interpret this shift in political engagement?
There's a lot of political engagement that is taking place. We are telling them that they cannot remain leaderless forever, because a regime will be formed by leaders. If us and when we take Mr. William Ruto home constitutionally, because we shall take him home through the power of the vote, that Gen Z generation ought to be converted into a political machine that will be instrumental in casting their vote against Mr. William Ruto and in favor of a regime that will be responsive to the plight of Kenyans. So we are talking to them on a day-to-day basis that they must join the political parties of their choice, that they must convert themselves into a political machine if they want to achieve their wishes and their aspirations. So that debate is on, the engagement is on, but I must say this, the debate that is on is separate from what is being called the conclave by Mr. Raila Odinga. Mr. Raila Odinga, who was once a celebrated Democrat, a celebrated liberator, has decided to join government and to go to bed with government. And he has decided to be the spanner boy of government, who will help government overcome the challenges of the day by suppressing the voice of the people. So recently he came out calling for what he was calling the conclave negotiations with the people who are pro-change, the people who are out to liberate the country, the people who are fighting for our second freedom from bad governance, excesses of the government, abuse of office of government, abuse and violation of the rule of law, the abuse and the excesses of the violation of human rights. We have distanced ourselves from that conclave negotiations. We have put it very clear across the entire generations that we are not going to negotiate with our killers. Remember, yesterday we buried a young girl aged 12 years who succumbed to a bullet that was fired by an irresponsible police officer in follow-up of the shoot to kill orders. That is a tragedy that we are in now, that a young girl yesterday was buried. We have many more who are nursing injuries in most of our health facilities. So that is tragedy we find ourselves in. And we are saying we are worried much more, not by the noise of our distractors, but by the silence of our friends and our sympathizers.
So I have to ask, let's look at the meaning of these protests. Do you think it signals a deeper call for constitutional structure or reform, or do you think it's calling for structural reforms beyond the current economic frustrations?
No. Fortunately, our constitution has given us the foundation and the premises of all the reforms that a country may desire to have. We are in this situation because there is blatant violation of the rule of law and disregard of the constitution. We are not in desire of any significant aspect of reforms, because all the reforms that we expected to have were achieved through the progressive 2010 constitution. What we need is a government that is going to implement the constitution and the legislation that have accrued therefrom. Number two, we also must have a government that is led by a man or a woman of good character. Remember, the man at the helm today was once charged before the ICC for crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
That is a tragedy we are having, that we are having a man at the helm of the leadership of this country who was once an alumni of the ICC. So he's not desirous of implementing the constitution. He's not desirous of implementing the rule of law. He would want us to stay in this situation of blatant violations, so that in that situation he is able to enjoy him and his conclave of cabals are able to thrive in this state of lawlessness. So you actually are not looking for very major reforms. We are looking at the implementation of the constitution and the observance of the rule of law and the respect of the institutions that have been created therefrom. Remember, when we enacted the new constitution, we created various organs that are supposed to complement our democratic processes. Those institutions have now since been overwhelmed by the excesses of the government. They have been compromised and they have been prejudiced by the one-man rule that is currently operating in this country. Thank you.
Okay, so let's look across the African continent. You would agree with me that protests have sprung up in other countries aside Kenya. Well, let's bring it down to Nigeria. Now, how would you compare Kenya's Gen Z-led movement to Nigeria's NSAS protest and other youth uprising across the continent?
I would begin by saying that there is no serious variance between the movement that is taking place in Kenya and in either in Accra or in Lagos. The similarity between these movements is that it's a reincidence of a generation that had otherwise decided to be silent, but has now decided to air its voice. So the similarity again is that all these generations, Generation Z and Generation Y, we are clamoring for one thing: accountability in governance, transparency in governance. We are clamoring for good governance. We are calling and clamoring for equality. We are clamoring for equity. We are clamoring for the involvement of the people in the democratic processes. So there is serious similarities. There is serious points of identification. There are serious points of mutual convergence that the people have decided to engage in. It's a resonance of Africa. Even if you were to look at what is happening in Burkina Faso, or what is happening in Niger, or what is happening in Mali, these are young people of our generation, who have decided that we are going to have Africa governed in a different manner. And therefore, across the continent, it is desirous of us who believes that Africa deserves better governance, who believes Africa deserves better than what we are currently having, to rise up, and the masses of the people must rise up and join in the movement of calling for better government. May it be Nairobi, Kenya, Accra, Ghana, Lagos, Nigeria, or Johannesburg, South Africa. The cry is the same. Or Ouagadougou, the cry is the same. The people are saying that they want to be free. They want to be free from the excesses of government. They want to be free from bad governance. They want to be free from a government that is not responsive to the plight of the people. If you can look, the masses of the people who are currently rising up are the generation that the government has deprived the bare minimum of sustaining their lives, the bare minimum of basics to lives. There are people who are sleeping hungry, a generation that is sleeping on the streets, a generation that is not able to feed itself, a generation that has been unable to move from their mothers and their fathers' houses because they are not able to attain their independency. A generation that the government policy, or a generation that has been undermined by the government policy, a generation that has been undermined, their dignity has been undermined by the deliberate government policy. So these are people who are calling out and wanting to attain and to have their dignity respected, protected, and upheld.
Well, there have been reports of media blackouts, internet disruptions, as well as threats to journalists. What legal redress is available in such situations?
Again, thanks to our judiciary, the day the government decided to switch off all the live coverage, in 2 hours' time or 3 hours' time, the High Court had suspended those unlawful orders. So we are taking anything that is happening unlawful. We are resorting to going to the High Court to challenge those unlawful orders so that the people can be freed by at least some of the residue institutions like the judiciary that has remained focused and people and proactive and people-oriented service delivery. So we've been able to successfully challenge some of those excesses in the High Court.
Okay, so how do we begin to rebuild trust between the government, law enforcement, and the young citizens who are leading these calls for change?
Sorry?
Yeah, I'm asking, how do we begin to rebuild trust between the government, law enforcement agencies, and young citizens who are leading these calls for change?
It's unfortunate, I have to say this, that it's not possible for us in the circumstances when this regime is in force to build that trust. We can only begin by building trust if this regime is not in power. Remember, the trust that we're talking of is institutional trusts. It's not the trust of individuals. But this regime has been in the forefront of compromising all the institutions. All the institutions must sing to the tune of Mr. William Ruto. So to the extent that this regime is in power, it is impossible for us to regain and rebuild the institutional citizens' trust before William Ruto came to power. So one of the things that we shall do, and that's what we are aiming to do, and that is why there is the one-term movement, one-term, that is WANTAM movement, is a clarion call to have a constitutional change of regime. Whereupon the occurrence of that on the second Tuesday of August 2027, we shall then have a national conversation on how to regain and rebuild the institutional citizens' trust that has now been eroded.
Well, thank you so much, Advocate Njiru, for taking out time and sharing these deep insights on such a critical moment in Kenya's history and in Africa's democratic journey. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I'll wait to watch the outcome of what is happening in this country, and we hope that we shall be alive to see the desired change taking place. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Thank you for coming. Well, as we've heard today, the law is not just a tool of order, but a shield of rights. And the voices of young people across the continent are demanding that it be upheld. Whether in Nairobi or Lagos, Harare or Dakar, one thing is clear. Africa's future is being shaped by a generation that knows its rights, speaks its truth, and is unafraid to demand better. But the program continues after this break. Just stay with us.
Now here's some exciting news. ADBN is everywhere you are. Stay connected with us across all our social media and streaming platforms for exclusive news updates, captivating stories, and more. Join the ADBN community today via our various platforms on Avo TV app, ADBN channel 121, Niger TV app, ADBN TV, Limex World TV app, ADBN TV. Get the latest news straight to your phone. Join our WhatsApp channel. Just search for ADBN TV and hit the follow button. Turn on your notification to stay updated and never miss any part of the experience. Stay in the conversation with us across our social media handles on X at ADBN_TV, Instagram at ADBN_TV, Facebook ADBN TV, YouTube ADBN TV_NG, and keep visiting our website on www.adbntv.com. Watch us live anytime, anywhere. ADBN TV, a part of you.